Hey there, how are you doing, Grace Moms? I am so excited about the progress we are making through the Word of God. I know I say that almost every day, but I don't know about you, without a challenge like this, I wouldn't have made it this far into the Word all on my own at the beginning of a new year with everything going on. Making a commitment and sticking to it is so beautiful. And I know that God is honoring it in your life just as He's honoring it in mine, because I am seeing the fruit of this time in the Word coming forth, not just in my life, but in my family and in my friendships too. What about you? I would love to hear all about it. If you're in the Grace Moms Facebook group, please come share a testimony. Otherwise, you can email me at lisayvonne@gracefulabandon.com. I love to celebrate the fruit of the Word in your life with you. So let's just jump right in here to Judges 16. If you have already read your verses for the day, you know all about Samson and his Nazirite vow, his breaking it by falling for a foreign woman, his intimacy with her, and him divulging to her what God had done to give him his strength and what the secret was. And there's this one verse that is absolutely awful. So Delilah has Samson captured right where she wants him. She's finally gotten him to give up his secrets. And she cries out, "Samson, the Philistines have come to capture you." And when he woke up, he thought, "I will do as before and shake myself free." But he did not realize the Lord had left him. That's 16:20. But he did not realize the Lord had left him. How many times do we go about our lives and think, well, I'll just do what I've always done in this situation and I'll handle it. And then all of a sudden the outcome comes out differently. What's the difference? Well, if it is a matter of eternal consequence, we need to submit it to the Lord at all the times. But if it's not a matter of eternal consequence and it's something that we're used to handling in our own strength, do we really have to consult God? Well, we learned about Joshua and the leaders of Israel who had examined the bread but forgot to consult the Lord. And we know about the judges who constantly, of which Samson was one, who constantly had to go before God and seek his wisdom before dividing things up among the people and handing out advice. Yes, it is important for us to always consult God. It matters. What we do for the Lord matters, and what we do in everyday life is done for the Lord. And we have to constantly stay in God's presence and consistently press into Him, because we don't want to end up like Samson, where it says, but he did not realize the Lord had left him. I can't imagine becoming so cold to God, so unaffected by Him that I don't even recognize that His presence is gone. And yet, while I would notice if I woke up tomorrow and my life were different that way, but a little compromise here and there over a span of a great amount of time, I might not notice. When I was growing up in Sunday school, I heard over and over and over this story about a frog put into a pot of boiling water and it jumped out because the water was hot. But then they did an experiment where they put the frog in cool water and they turned up the temperature degree by degree over a long period of time, and the next thing you knew, you had frog soup, because the frog slowly acclimated to the compromise in temperature and did not sense the danger. Well, that's kind of what happened in Samson's life. And that's what happens to us all too often. One little compromise here, one little compromise there, one funny thing that's relevant in today's culture or with our friends so that we don't stand out, so that we don't make a decision that makes us look crazy, followed by another one, followed by another one, followed by another one. Over time, we end up in a completely different place than where we started out and where we ever intended to go. And we might not realize that we're not dwelling in the house of the Lord the way we're supposed to. Now, God is everywhere. So it's not like we can ever escape God's presence. But when we're not abiding in Him, like it says in John 15, when we're not living in Him, life looks very differently. We need to consistently and intentionally carve out time for the Word, like we're doing with this challenge. This is setting up great habits for us. And we need to embrace the truths that God gives us for our lives and the guidelines that He sets out for us to live by. And we need to focus on loving Him, like we learned in Deuteronomy, the choices that were set before the nation of Israel, that are set before us, life and death. but choose life, right? Which means loving the Lord your God, hearing his commands, and holding fast to him. That's what we need to do so that we don't find ourselves in a position one day where we have wandered so far from God, we don't even know where we're at or where he's at or how to find him again. I think the first time I read this, I remember I had recently backslidden, if you want to use church words. I had run away from God with a rebellious teenage heart. And I had walked so far away from God one day, I remember praying and feeling as though I were talking to dead air. And I went, what just happened? How did I even get here? I found myself living a life that I had never wanted to live, making compromises I had never planned to make, doing really awful things because I was compromising my moral compass just to hang out with these people that weren't even really my friends. But it happened one small choice at a time because sometimes the path of least resistance is easiest. And shortly after that season of my life, I was reading my Bible because I was trying to find my way back to God. I didn't really get grace at the time, and I thought I had to earn my way back. I didn't understand that I could just cry out, God, forgive me, and he would. And I read this verse that says he didn't realize the Lord had left him. And I cried because I felt like that same thing was true about me. I had made these compromises, a little one here and a little one there, and didn't even realize I wasn't living in God's presence anymore. And it broke my heart so much. So I want to encourage you, sweet friend, don't do that. Every single day, ask God, Lord, is there anything in my heart I need to lay bare before you? God, I want to live in your presence today. Please help me. And just continually press into him and love him and read his word and pray. We don't want to end up like Samson. But here's the next part. And this is just as beautiful and heartbreakingly precious as every other story of redemption in the Bible. It says, the Philistines captured him. They gouged out his eyes. They took him to Gaza. He was bound with bronze chains and forced to grind grain in the prison. But before long, his hair began to grow back. And that was a symbol of his vow to God and his belonging to God. So now we know God is on the move here and God is doing something. And Samson is a part of it. So all of this happens and the Philistine rulers have a feast. They call him out. They brag about the victory that God has given them over their enemy Samson. And when the people saw him, they praised their God, saying, our God has delivered our enemy to us. The one who killed so many of us is now in our power. Half drunk, they demanded, bring him out so he can amuse us. He was brought out from the prison to amuse them, and they had him stand between the pillars supporting the roof. So they're in this area with pillars all around it, and they have Samson stand between two of them. And Samson can't see what's going on because they gouged out his eyes. And he said to the servant who was leading him by the hand, place my hands against the pillars that hold up the temple so I can rest against them. Not a completely crazy request. So the temple was filled, So the temple was completely filled with people. There were about 3,000 men and women on the roof who were watching as Samson amused them. Samson prayed to the Lord, sovereign Lord, remember me again. Oh God, please strengthen me just one more time. With one blow, let me pay back the Philistines for the loss of my two eyes. Samson put his hands on the two pillars that held up the temple and pushed against them with both hands, and he prayed, let me die with the Philistines. And the temple crashed down on the Philistine rulers and all the people. So he killed more people when he died than he had in his entire life. Now, I'm not here to get excited with you about death, okay? But he prayed, oh, sovereign Lord, remember me and let me do this. And God gave him his strength back. When we walk away from God, when we come to this place where we can't even remember what it was like to dwell in God's presence, or we wonder where it is in our lives, we can pray, oh, sovereign Lord, remember me. Oh, God, restore me to you. Samson didn't yet have a Messiah who had died for him, so he didn't know the hope that we have. He didn't understand that all it took was one repentant prayer and restoration happened. But we have Jesus. So we can be in that place and we can run to God and we can say, sovereign Lord, remember me, restore me, redeem me, renew me, refresh me, make me yours. And he does. I hope you have a great day and I'll see you tomorrow.